Hey everyone, Dan and Phil here for Aussie Garage, and today we thought we'd throw something a little bit different at you.
Oh, definitely. So we've had a lot of muscle cars over this weekend since we've been here. So let's go to the race sim. I'm here with Clive. Now, Clive, we're here with your race car here, and we're going to look at another one very shortly. Can you tell us about your business first, and then we'll talk about this race car?
Yeah, well, welcome to Melbourne, Phil. Great to have you.
Appreciate
I hear
it.
you've totally underestimated the traffic today, so
Yes, definitely.
you're getting to learn the joys of living in Melbourne. But
Yep.
one thing that I can say is we've certainly given you a beautiful day. So,
Oh, perfect, definitely.
so Phil, my business is actually a very interesting story, because when I left South Africa in 2011, I brought across a few of my own cars. With hindsight, I should have brought a lot more.
Yep.
And you'll be very interested to hear this, but one of the cars that I brought was a Holden Monaro that was actually assembled in South Africa, a 308,
Yep.
assembled in South Africa. They built them there only for 2 years. The first year they were sold as a Holden, and unless you're an absolute authority, I challenge you to tell me the differences. I know the differences. There are 5 subtle differences on the car. Then I had the logistical problem of where am I going to keep my cars. So I thought to myself, well, instead of just paying rent, let me find a facility that maybe I can look after other cars, especially collector cars, classic cars, cars that need a lot of personal attention. And that's how it started. The business is called Makulu. Makulu in African language means the big one. And why I called it Makulu is a story for another day. But the business was called Makulu Vehicle Storage. I started very modestly with one customer.
Yep.
So
Okay.
if you have a look around at my facility, I know the history, I know the background of every single motor car that we have here. Without sounding immodest, we look after now over 200 motor cars. I know the people personally. It's kind of like a unique club. Everybody respects each other's cars. You don't have to worry about them having parties here and coming to have a peek at this and having a peek at that. There's a lot of respect, a lot of camaraderie. We get together, we have social evenings. We had David Brabham just the other night coming
very
over.
nice.
I like to say it's a remarkable business that's driven by passion.
Obviously, from that, this is also another passion of yours, which is racing cars.
Yes.
Now, this car, obviously, Alfa Romeo, now, this is your race car. Now, where have you driven something like this?
Well, let's give you the history of this car, because this car is a very, very well-known, iconic car, especially in the Targa Tasmania series. Its original owner was a gentleman called John Donnelly from Canberra. He and his son participated in many, many Targa Tasmania events very, very successfully. The car was built in 2001. It's probably done conservatively 8 or 12 Targa events, where in 1 year it won Classic outright. I got to hear of the car. When I saw the car, they'd taken it back to a standard road car. And I said, no, this isn't for me. I managed to get a picture of the car exactly as it was on the last event that they did. And we replicated that car exactly picture perfect to what it was. And then one thing led to another, and I actually bought the car for one of my customers who's got a huge collection of Alphas, 21 of them. The car was a waste, and he allowed me to drive it in one event, and I was smitten. And I said to him, John, you know, I can't keep asking you to drive the car. I'll buy the car from you. He said, yeah, no problem. And since it's come into our ownership, it's worked very, very hard. I never thought I would spell the praises of an Alfa Romeo, because in South Africa they were my main competition. And in South Africa I did a lot of historic racing. I actually won in 1989 the South African Historic Touring Car Championship in a BMW 2002, vowing I would never own an Alfa.
Yeah, and
But
now here you are.
this is, honestly, this has been the most successful race car that I've ever owned. It's just a phenomenal motor car. The way they've set it up, loads of torque. You don't have to rev the limit of the car to get the car to go. So over here we do a lot of Mark sports car events. We do a lot of Alpha days. We do a lot of BMW days. Probably one of my biggest thrills was driving the car in the last Targa Tasmania. That was Targa Tasmania 30, and as you know, that's Targa Tasmania is put on hold. Hopefully 2025 it's going to be started again.
Yeah.
In that event the car was phenomenal. 34 out of the 30 stages, 36 stages were in the rain.
Yep.
To start off with, they put us at the back because they said, oh, you know, mate, 1965 Alpha, mate, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
After the last day, guess where the little Alpha was?
Yeah, yeah, right at one.
Yeah, it's a great, great little car.
Nice. So how many events have you actually won in this car?
Well, in the type of racing that we do, you can't really say that you win your event because they put you into different categories and you're actually racing against your time. And depending on what cars are in that category, it's unfair if you've got, let's say, a Monara running in the same class, because obviously it's going to be much quicker, but they put you in different groupings. But I can say that for what it is, the car's been phenomenally successful. The times that we achieve at Sandown, at Phillip Island, my colleague Sebastian Mosseri drove it at Winton, really did very, very well.
Perfect,
Everything with this car is in its handling. It doesn't have the power, it doesn't have the poke, but I can tell you the handling is sensational.
For something as old as this, when it came in, it was still sounded like it was on tune.
Well, you know, Phil, this is 1965. I mean, in 1965, if you look at what they created, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, the sound of the carbies barking, it's like a symphony, you know. When you're cruising at 6,000, 7,000, music.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of that, I reckon we should have a look underneath the hood here and check out the engine.
Okay, Phil, so this car, as I mentioned to you, was developed specifically for Targa Tasmania. So when the car was built, they decided quite correctly to go for a 2-litre engine. So this is a 2-litre motor, twin cam obviously, running on 45 Webers. I'm not exactly sure the horsepower it makes, but it's not a huge horsepower motor. A lot of torque. They've done it specifically for Targa Tasmania, where you need more low-end grunt than you need top-end. And I think they really have come up with the right formula, because since 2001, it's running the original engine, the original gearbox, the original diff.
Nice.
They've never come out.
Wow.
The only thing we've changed is a clutch plate and of course brake pads. You know, Phil, when I did the Targa Tasmania Tour TT30, I was absolutely gobsmacked as to how hard the cars have to be driven if you want to actually stay with the pack. And I think that road event is far more demanding on a motor car than probably the track events, because you're doing long stages, 30 Ks, 40 Ks, and you're at it all the time. You're in the red all the time, and the car is working very, very hard. So I think it's an absolute testament to the way they built the car,
Definitely.
that it survived so many targets. We don't even talk about all the sprint events that we've done.
Yeah.
If I've done one sprint event with this car, we've probably done maybe 20, 30. It's worked hard, very, very hard.
When these came out, what size engines did they normally come out in this model?
1600.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. They had a 1300 version, which was underpowered, then they had a 1600 version, but a lot of the cars were upgraded to 1750,
Yep.
and then 2 litre.
Okay.
But depending on what race category you're involved in,
Yep.
the 2 litre engine may not be homologated for that particular series.
Okay then. And the fact that this thing is running on bloody 2 Webers and stuff like that, and it sounds mint when you're starting it up.
The sound.
It
It's
is
not when you
perfect.
start it up.
It's just when you're racing
You've
it.
got to come round the block with me, and we got to get to the harmony. You know, that's like 6,000, 7,000 revs. This car, when you drive it around town,
Yeah.
it's an ordinary old lady's car.
Yes.
Get it on song, unbelievable.
Mate, this is an awesome car, and I think what we need to do is let's move on to the other one.
Okay.
Tell us about this car.
Well, this car's got quite an unusual story. So, you know, 914s are regarded as the orphans in the Porsche world.
Yep, okay.
Everybody wants the 911s and progressively better than that, but
Yep.
the 914s have been very neglected. But every now and again I get these crazy ideas in my head, and
Yeah.
I kind of think, oh, you know what, it would be nice to be different. But having said that,
Yeah.
when I was suggesting to people buy 914s because they are grossly undervalued,
Yep.
everybody just laughed at me. In fact, my mechanic, Louis from Motion Automotive, when I said to him, Louis, I'm bringing in a 914, he said, it's not coming into my workshop, mate. We don't allow Volkswagens in here, and he wouldn't work on the car.
Yeah, fair enough.
But those who did listen
Yep.
and bought the 914s, whether they were the 1.7s, 1.8s,
Yep.
2 litres, they have shown very positive growth.
Yep.
And I think they've been rewarded for taking the initiative to buy an underdog car. But the creme de la creme was obviously the 9146 GT. The factory only built a handful of those cars,
Okay.
and they built them specifically to participate in Le Mans,
Yep.
where some of the world's most famous drivers actually started life out in these 914-6s. So to find an original 9146, certainly in Australia, is very difficult, although I must say, between you and I, that I do own a 9146, a genuine 9146, which is
Perfect.
very, very sought after. But compared to the 916 GT,
Yep.
it looks very, very modest and very, very different. So
Yes.
the 9146 GT came with bigger flares and lighter body and all of that. So this car came from Queensland, and the gentleman bought it as an ordinary 914, and he fitted a 6-cylinder engine to it. So it had a lot of the basic work done, but it still had, I'd say, a long, long way to go to make it really competitive. I said to my racing partner, Chris Boribin, I said, you know what I really want to do is I want to replicate the Jägermeister car. So Jägermeister with, not this car, but their first 916 GT
Okay.
is a story all on its own.
Yep.
So the very first car that Jägermeister ever sponsored, the very first car,
Yep.
was a 9146 GT. Now listen to this for the story. It was entered in some endurance race, and it was painted in green, this color green that you see.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And the CEO of Jägermeister said, no good, it's too bland.
Yeah. Okay.
For the race you better put some color on the car. So overnight they went, they gave it a respray, came up with the colors, Jägermeister stickers,
Yep.
and the rest is history. If
Yeah,
you
perfect.
recall, all the famous sports cars in the world in that era were sponsored by Jägermeister. You name them, they had them.
Yep.
Whether it be a 934 Porsche, 935, 959, 962, Jägermeister were one of the main participants in motorsport.
Yes.
And it all started with this one.
Wow.
So we've
Perfect.
replicated, you know, what they came out with. It's very accurately replicated.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
we got a little model and we
No.
coloured it
Awesome.
all. And
So obviously you drive this one as well. So what kind of race have you been driving this one in?
well, this one also we do a lot of the speed events.
Okay.
But I think the greatest compliment ever for this car is on 3 occasions now it's been invited to participate at the Australian Grand Prix in the Historics demonstration event.
Okay, nice.
That is strictly invitation only.
Yeah.
And we've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to actually participate with the car
Yep.
for 3 years. And
Wow.
it's been a huge thrill for me. It really has. I'll show you on the side,
Yep.
you know, something that gives me such pleasure
Yep.
is when the car gets scrutinized, it gets scrutinized by the FIA scrutineers.
Yeah.
And I've got an FIA scrutineering sticker put on the car that
Oh,
for
wow.
me is more valuable than anything else.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
just,
yeah. So it just
the,
certifies the car,
thrill and the pleasure and the
Yeah.
ego of knowing that you've
Yeah.
taken part.
So how did you do in that race?
Well, they say it's a demonstration race.
Yeah.
I like to think that I went a little bit quicker than the demonstration event.
You're a bit more competitive.
And in the grouping
Yeah.
where I was, we did exceptionally well.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. You know, a lot of development's gone into this car.
Mm.
So for starters, it was running the standard dogleg gearbox for an engine that was maybe making 90 horsepower.
Yep.
This engine is making conservatively 280 plus horsepower. The gearbox just couldn't take it.
Yeah.
So we put in a later version gearbox. Louis from Motion Automotive, absolute genius. He had to reverse everything. Then we fitted a LS diff to the car.
Oh, nice.
And now that gearbox can cope with the power.
Yeah.
Because it's actually powers a 930 turbo. So that was one of the issues. The next big issue is to get the car to handle properly.
Yep.
So a very good friend of mine, Rex Broadbent, who's an absolute Porsche legend, and he's won Targa Tasmania in his Porsche, his 74 Porsche RS, many times.
Wow.
I would say that Rex to Targa Tasmania is in the same league as Peter Brock, Jim Richards in the world of circuit racing.
Okay, wow, that's awesome.
And he's an absolute authority in setting the cars up. He'd never really done a 916 before.
Yep.
But he set it all up. We got the bits and pieces from the States. He put
Perfect.
his magical touch to it, and the car handles phenomenally.
Great. Did you have to actually upgrade any of the braking system as well as the suspension?
Yes. Oh, the standard brakes on the little, from the 916 or 911S brakes, I mean,
Yeah.
they wouldn't stop that Mini you saw me going out. No, it's got upgraded brakes.
Oh, great.
But, you know, driving these Porsches, I can be a big hero in the Alpha, and we've got a Renault Megane. I can really be a big hero and think I'm doing so well. And
Yeah.
This car, You've got to be very respectful.
Yeah.
It's totally unforgiving,
Yeah.
but the thrill of getting it right
Yeah.
is amazing. They say that, you know, there's a certain part of a man's anatomy that you need to have big
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you want to drive these cars successfully. Well, I agree with that, because
Yeah.
gee, you're holding it, you know, that the feeling of it always oversteering, and then you actually control it on the accelerator.
Yeah.
The steering wheel becomes kind of academic.
Yeah,
But
fair enough.
driving this car and the power and the acceleration, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And with these Porsches, this thing is governed to 7.2.
Yeah.
Rex was telling me, mate, you need to get a different governor to go to 7.8. You can drive it at 7.2 from the morning till the night. It's
Oh,
totally
perfect.
reliable.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell by the look on your face every time you talk about the driving experience, you get a grin from ear to ear, because it just gives you that much joy. So, and that's great, because that's something we'd like to hear. And it's a bit like that with us when we go out in our muscle cars. You just get out there, you don't have a care in the world, you're just relaxing, just cruising around, having a ball. You know, who gives a shit about the rest of the world? Like, this is just
Well,
it at the time.
Again, this car really only comes onto its own in the racetrack.
Yeah. Yeah.
It hates the town. It hates the city. I mean, it's fully road registered.
Yeah.
I could do Target Tasmania in it,
Yeah.
but I think it would be too hard. It's too wild.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
too
fair enough.
cammy. It's too.
I reckon we should check underneath the hood, mate.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, looking at this thing is a beast.
Yeah, it really is.
Wow.
Well, you know, we've squeezed a 3.2 Carrera motor in it.
Yep.
It's running 48 carbies. The motor is conservatively pumping 280 horsepower,
Yeah.
and the car weighs just under 900 kgs.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, when you're pushing this type of horsepower, you need to have the right brakes.
Yep.
It's running the correct period size wheels and tires,
Yep.
so that's pretty original. But for its era, they look mean. Back of this car is just
Yep.
so sexy. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
It's a very quick car, full. Really, it is.
Yeah. Well, put it this way, I'm glad you driving it, not me, mate, because I wouldn't have these
Well,
reflexes.
You know, you put a really good driver in this car. I reckon this car easily will do 122s at Sandown. Easy.
Wow. Okay. I'd love to see this on the track one day. So
Well,
yeah, we'd definitely. We'd
We'll
be up for
import
that.
you guys again,
Yep.
and maybe we get our act together and
Yep.
get you to try and come with us when we do a Tampered Motorsport event, and they give us permission for us to take
Yeah,
you.
that would be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, we'll definitely be in that.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Awesome,
That would
mate.
be a treat.
Well, Clive, we really appreciate you inviting us down here to your business and to show us these lovely cars. We really do enjoy looking at these things, and it's part of a history. And what beautiful cars, and the fact that you're racing them and having fun with them,
Yeah.
makes it even more special, mate.
Really very special to meet you guys. Thank you for taking the trouble to look us up and to giving us your time as well. And, you know, I really look forward to maybe you spending a day with us on the racetrack.
Yep, that
And
sounds good.
that'll put a bigger smile on your face.
Oh yeah, it definitely will.
Yeah.
Trust me. Awesome, mate. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it, mate.
Phil.
Awesome.